so one of them that I was always very fascinated by was the eye itself, right? You study this extensively. And one of those parts is and if I overgeneralize, just please correct me, is the visual stability thing. I mean, we see everything very stable, but we make eye movements all the time. But we don't really realize that those eye movements don't change our percept of the world. But if somebody ever tried to take a picture or a video with their camera, they immediately see when they're shaking.
Sure.
But if you think about it, the eye is like a camera. But how come with all these eye movements, there's no camera shake for us? Could you explain that?
Well, that fits that whole notion of the brain being a prediction machine. So indeed, we have the eyes, and the back of the eyes, we call that the retina. There's the layer with photoreceptors, so they detect light, and the eyes they can move very fast. We can categorize eye movements in different categories, but one of which is these very rapid eye movements, which are called saccades. So they can go up to 500 degrees per second, 600. And so you make these very rapid eye movements. But if you move your eyes, of course, also the photoreceptive layer takes a different orientation.
Yeah.
And so if there's an object in front of you that stimulates the photoreceptive layer at one location, but now if you make an eye movement, the same object stimulates the photoreceptive layer at an other location. And you're not aware of that at all. And then the question is, how come? Well, if the brain needs to wait every time that a set of photoreceptors is stimulated to process that information, it takes about, as we said before, 100 milliseconds. So you would see snapshots of the world, kind of. And that's what we do not do. And so the idea now is that the brain at the moment, it tries to, it prepares for making these rapid eye movements, these saccades, and it makes about 3 to 4 per second. So you make 100,000 of them every day. So at the moment that the brain starts preparing, getting the system ready to make the eye movement, and there's already a little bit of activation that is helping the brains to move, the eyes to move. So it's already sent to muscles. At the same time, the brain uses that signal, and so it's a motor signal, in order to set up a prediction of what the retina is going to receive.
Yeah.
And so the brain is not surprised that the object first stimulated that set of photoreceptors, and now it's stimulating this set of photoreceptors. So it's not surprised about this new sensory input. And so it assumes, well, this is what I knew. I anticipated that, so the world has remained stable. And so that's one of the ideas. And so this is called the problem of visual stability. And of course, you have that not only for eye movements, also head movements. Of course, same problem in the auditory system, touch system. Every system needs to deal with that. And one of the ideas is that the brain uses these sensory predictions based on motor signals. And that's visual stability. Is that explaining it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But does that then also mean that so if it can't rely on the feedback, because you said 80 to 100 milliseconds, and the saccade is so fast that I can't see anything during the saccade eye movement. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually blind while my eye is moving.
Mm-hmm. Kind of, yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, try to make eye moves while you're in front of a mirror. You won't see your eyes move.
Yeah, I never tried that.
Yeah.
But it also means that I have to be the one making the eye movements.
Yeah.
So if there was external control, things would feel very different.
Yeah. If you would push your eyeball with your index finger, and you push a little bit on your eyeball, you will see that the world shifts a bit. Yeah, because you cannot make these predictions.
Right.
It's not a motor signal that's sent to the eye muscles. Yeah. It's not a motor signal. Our muscles and brain cannot use that signal in order to make sensory predictions on vision. But the idea is then, maybe to take it one step further. So the eye, or the system, the visual system, makes a prediction about this is what my photoreceptors are going to detect. Yeah. Then, if the eye has made its movement, the photoreceptors will detect that object that is now stimulating it. And so the brain basically almost takes two samples. It makes a prediction, and then it gets the new input on the retina. And so suppose that the object would have moved during this very rapid eye movement. It does not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Then the brain say, well, this was my prediction, but apparently my photoreceptors have not detected it. And so now it can conclude, because the object is stimulated a different set of photoreceptors, well, it must have moved, right? And so by so doing, the brain can create stability, but also knows when there's instability.
Right.
Yeah.
And can you mess with it in a sense of you can move? So basically, so the brain makes the prediction and it says I move my eye, then I should see this. But then if you just also slightly change it, not too much, but also slightly, that the prediction itself is going to change.
You could try. You could try if the prediction is going to change, but the movement of the eye follows that. It's consistent with that prediction, then of course you will still perceive stability. But what you could also do is you can say, well, at the moment that I move my eyes, and I start making the eyes, I just, and these experiments have been done, I stimulate at the level of the muscle, that the muscle contracts this slightly more. So then the eye has moved more than you would base your prediction on. Then of course you would create a perceptive instability.
Right. Yeah. But then would your muscles adjust to that to try to reduce the instability, or you just find
the brain will try to if this happens all the time.
Yeah,
the brain will start learning.
Yeah,
and it will start to create a new mapping between, let's say, the motor signals and the sensory prediction, and people refer to that as the Ford model, as you know, as you have worked on that.
Right, I did work on that. But I should be talking here myself.
No, I understand. I understand. But this is the idea, huh? Yeah. So if the sensory, if you continuously disrupt the sensory signal in relation to the sensory prediction, the brain will start to adapt. Yeah.
So you would say, maybe I go too far with this, but actually our percept of a stable world is an illusion.
It's something organized internally. Yeah.
So it's a construct.
It's a construct.
It's a construct.
Perception is a construct.
Yeah.
By itself, of course.
Yeah. And I think that's what often people miss, is the difference between sensation and perception.
Yeah. Well, make that distinction, huh?
Yeah. Well.
So what we there's of course famous illusions.
Yes.
That show you already. The same stimulation on the retina, on the photoreceptors, can create different percepts. Why is that? Because there's a difference between perception and sensation.
Yeah. No, I always found that very fascinating.
Yeah, it is very, very fascinating.
Especially because it's so low level. And it's so replicable.
Of course, and it already happens at the level of the retina. In the retina, there are so many cells. There's a whole neural network in the retina that already starts processing the visual input.